Hey everybody, and welcome back to Algebra 2 Online. So quadratic inequalities are always a thing that every year are a little tough when you first see them, just because of some of the weird cases, like how in that last video I talked about how you can get like a single point solution to an inequality, which is kind of weird, how you can get like no solution or all real numbers, well, no real solution, things like that. So there's lots of like odd things, and so I always spend 2 days working through these in Algebra 2. So really, next class we're just going to be working on some more of these problems, but this is just another example that I wanted you to see, and it kind of melds two concepts, like the ones where we write down a quadratic based on given information, and we also need to understand stuff about how quadratic inequalities work. So basically I just want an inequality written down, quadratic inequality, that has the solution x bigger than 1 or x less than -2, and it needs to go through this point, -1, 1, 1, 2, 2. These are basically the roots, right? So it kind of makes sense to use factored form. So you know that like one of the factors, because the root is at 1 and -2, one's going to be x minus 1, the other is going to be x plus 2. Because remember, when we solve quadratic inequalities, we always start with the roots like that. So we've got the roots kind of worked into the quadratic, but we have some sort of a in front, and that's going to get dictated by this part right here. So it's the kind of thing where we need to like take the kind of general structure for a factored form quadratic and make it go through this point. So I'm just going to plug in y of 22 and x of -1, 1, 1, and then basically solve this out, right? And this will give me the correct like equation. So if I multiply, let's just do that. If I just subtract this, I get -112 here, and here I get -109. And then if I multiply those out, I get positive 208. And then that means that the stretch factor in front is 22 over 12,208. And that probably reduces because they're both even, but it doesn't matter. So I want an OR problem. So if you think of what that would look like, right? We want it to go through 1 and over here at -2. And, you know, you got some sort of like super skinny quadratic where something like that. But the idea is you want the solution to be specifically bigger than 1, like not including the 1, so specifically bigger than that, and then specifically less than -2. You want to describe those regions. So, you know, everything needs to basically be bigger than 0, right? You can't equal 0 because then you would fill in, you know, these inequalities. They would get a little bar underneath, right? Because that's where it equals 0. Basically the final answer would just be 22 over 12,208 times x minus 1, x plus 2, and we want it to be greater than 0. That quadratic inequality would have this solution, and we've made that quadratic go through this point. And again, you should go to Desmos, you should try it out, like plug this in, plug this part in, and see that, you know, truly the parts where it's bigger than 0 are these two areas, and then it also does go through that point.